I'm Harry Smith. Tonight, pressure on the president from his own party. Two respected Republican senators tell the president flat out it's time to start leaving Iraq. Plus, an ominous development in the California wildfire. It's spreading tonight, and more residents have been told to get out.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening. Katie is off. Tonight, President Bush finds himself increasingly isolated on the Iraq War. In the past 24 hours, two more Republican senators have told the president in blunt language they believe the troop surge is not working and they want American troops to start coming home. More now on this major development from our chief White House correspondent, Jim Axelrod.
The 1-2 punch from his own party are among the hardest hits President Bush has taken on Iraq. Senator Richard Lugar, a respected senior Republican who's been loyal to the president, now says it's time to downsize U.S. troop presence in Iraq.
The United States has violated some basic national security precepts during our military engagement in Iraq. We have overestimated what the military can achieve. We have set goals that are unrealistic.
Joining Lugar is Republican Senator George Voinovich of Ohio, who this afternoon also called for disengagement in Iraq.
There are a lot of Republicans that feel the same way as I do, that we need to get on with this, and that we've been very patient. We've been there 5 years. We've lost over 3,500 people. The costs of this have been astronomical.
These two moderate Republican senators' strong words could provide cover for even more Republicans, which is why this challenge to Mr. Bush is such a big deal.
So in many ways, it really is the moderate Republicans who may provide the grist and the number of votes needed to create veto-proof legislation mandating a troop reduction.
The timing couldn't be worse for Mr. Bush. In July, Congress will revisit troop withdrawal deadlines. The White House admits August could be a very bloody month, with al-Qaeda trying to influence a highly anticipated September report to Congress about the effectiveness of the surge. The White House is pleading against a rush to judgment.
We hope people are going to rush to contemplate what's going on here and not only think about the importance of giving this operation a chance to succeed, but also the real dangers of creating a vacuum.
Lugar and Voinovich have now broken with White House requests not to call for troop withdrawals before September. Add that to a summer recess when Congress will be getting an earful from voters about Iraq, and this is shaping up to be a very rough summer for President Bush. Harry?
Jim, to lose Lugar, to lose Voinovich, what does this bode for the White House? Who are they thinking might be next?
Well, the White House is going to keep a very close eye on Senator John Warner, the ranking Republican on the Armed Services Committee. He's been a frequent critic of Iraq before. He says he's got his own plan about Iraq, no details yet. But this clue, Harry, in his reaction to Lugar today, quote, "I hail what he did."
Jim Axelrod at the White House, thanks. In Iraq today, an al-Qaeda front group said it pulled off yesterday's suicide attack at a Baghdad hotel. That bomb blast killed 13 people and wounded 27 others. Among those killed, several Sunni leaders who were working with the U.S. in the fight against al-Qaeda. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Tony Blair will likely have a new job waiting as he leaves office tomorrow. He is expected to be named a special envoy to the Middle East, representing the U.S., United Nations, Europe, and Russia. Today, Blair met in London with California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who sported a green tie. The two discussed the battle against global warming. Back in Governor Schwarzenegger's home state, firefighters had reported they were making progress in their battle against a stubborn wildfire near Lake Tahoe. But late today came word that the fire is once again spreading and more people are being ordered out of the area. Bill Whitaker is in South Lake Tahoe with the latest.
Harry, firefighters started today hoping that they would soon have this fire contained, but the fire, it seemed, had other ideas. Late today, just a short while ago, it jumped the fire lines and erupted again in a fairly populated area called Talek Village. Now, firefighters are once again evacuating people. Just this morning, they had started to let residents return.
We did everything we could for this place. It's done.
Heck and Andrea Hernandez fled their home of 10 years just minutes before the Angora wildfire swept through Sunday. they returned to find everything gone.
You just don't believe that this would happen to you. You're always on the other side. You know, you see it happen to other people.
Painful homecomings were repeated over and over as authorities let residents return to part of the burn zone today.
I have electricity because my answering machine picked up last night. I'm going home. My home is safe.
But almost 200 homes were lost in the inferno. $100 million in damage so far. 1,900 firefighters had been making slow, steady progress. But this afternoon, their worst fears were realized.
All we need is one ember to jump this line, and we're off to the races again.
The monster fire that did this is the creation of persistent drought conditions here in California. But it isn't only California suffering. Half the nation is abnormally dry or in drought. In the southeast, it's the driest spring since they started keeping records in 1894, withering crops, fueling wildfires, and even drying up parts of the Everglades. Florida needs more than 4 feet of rain to end the drought. In Minnesota, wildfires spawned by the worst drought in 40 years have burned 107,000 acres. And out west, the reservoirs that quench the thirst of the fastest-growing region are dropping. Nevadans worry Lake Mead could run dry in a decade. In California, firefighters expect a long, hot summer.
Fuel moistures are still dry. You know, we're experiencing conditions that are more typical of August.
Now, August is when the fire season really heats up. And as you can see from this plume behind me, which is this fire erupting again, as you can see from that, we're off to an ominous beginning. Harry?
Bill Whitaker in California. Thanks. There is no drought in the Southwest. Heavy rains are causing flooding in 2 states. Small lakes sprouted in neighborhoods in eastern Texas, while in Austin, 4 deaths are being blamed on the storms. In Oklahoma City, 2 sisters became trapped in their car when it stalled on a flooded road dangerously close to a dam. A firefighter in a raft gingerly approached the car in the rushing water. Ropes kept the raft steady. He then pulled the girls to safety, one at a time. The picture. In other news, immigration reform will get one more chance in Congress. The Senate voted today to renew debate on the bill to legalize millions of undocumented immigrants. President Bush calls it a careful compromise, but it still faces stiff opposition from Republican conservatives. Also today, federal agents announced they've broken up a major ring dealing in counterfeit goods. The scheme involved bogus handbags and designer clothing that could be sold for millions. And officials say the smugglers had inside help from corrupt customs brokers. Here's our justice correspondent, Bob Orr.
The suspects are accused of trafficking in the luxury name brands favored by Fifth Avenue and Rodeo Drive. Coach, Chanel, Rolex. But these high-end goods are actually low-end knockoffs, which customs officials say were smuggled from China and destined for the streets of New York.
Let's go to the next.
29 people in all, including importers, trucking officials, and freight handlers, were rounded up today and charged in an elaborate scheme to market counterfeit goods. The bust followed a 19-month investigation, which used undercover agents, confidential informants, and secret recordings to crack what the government calls a sweeping conspiracy. More than 950 shipments of merchandise were involved, including phony handbags with labels from Prada, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Fendi. Fake Rolex watches, Nike sneakers, and North Face jackets. Loot that, if authentic, would carry a street value of $700 million. Officials say the suspects used bogus paperwork and payoffs to evade customs. Large containers, for example, were falsely labeled. One, said to contain plastic toy cars, actually held nearly 55,000 counterfeit watches and over 1,000 fake purses.
This level of corruption is not only serious from the standpoint of allowing counterfeit merchandise to come in, but it also has national security implications.
Because it raises a troubling question. If smugglers can sneak in phony watches and bags, what's to stop them from bringing in something worse? Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Now to a real cloak and dagger story, actually lots of them. Today, the CIA released a batch of top-secret documents, some of which had been locked away for decades. As David Martin reports, historians are going to have a field day with this stuff.
The CIA's family jewels, once its deepest, darkest secrets, finally see the light of day.
So this is the Ellsberg break-in.
700 pages of documents detailing assassination plots and spying on Americans were delivered to an ecstatic Tom Blanton, 15 years after he sued to get them under the Freedom of Information Act.
The CIA is finally coming clean on its own skeletons in the closet.
Well, sort of. Number 1 on the list has been blanked out as still too sensitive to release. But look at number 2, Johnny Roselli, the use of the mafia in an attempt to assassinate Fidel Castro. That was in 1960. Castro, of course, is still alive and kicking, but Roselli is not. His body was found stuffed in an oil drum floating in a Florida canal.
Honest, we're not making this stuff up. This is the dark side of the Cold War. A very different time when communism, not terrorism, was the main enemy.
It's got historians like CBS News consultant Douglas Brinkley salivating.
And boy, they've come through. The scholars are going to be writing book upon book about information from these documents.
The family jewels were first exposed during sensational congressional hearings in the 1970s. That's a special assassination weapon the CIA was forced to turn over. The CIA's failure to get Castro prompted one senator to label them the gang that couldn't shoot straight.
All these over 600 pages are just a big embarrassment to the CIA.
Star witnesses like James Jesus Angleton admitted opening letters American citizens mailed to the Soviet Union.
We believe that it was extremely important to know everything possible regarding contacts of American citizens with communist countries.
And illegally spying on protesters against the Vietnam War. Now you can read about it in the CIA's own documents.
A project that they called Chaos, which monitored the anti-war.
What the family jewels don't tell you is whether it could happen again. Although Director Mike Hayden said today, CIA is an organization that learns from its history. David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
Finally tonight, a special delivery. Birthday wishes to a company that knows all about delivering things. Here's Anthony Mason.
Over the past century, UPS drivers
Good day, United Parcel. Hello, ladies.
have become so familiar.
United Parcel.
Most people know them by the color of the uniform.
That's all you hear. Hey, what's up, Brown? How you doing, Brown? So, they know us.
This summer, Brown is marking a major birthday. Yes, UPS is 100 years old.
Happy anniversary, everybody. It's 100 years is special.
CEO Mike Eskew, like all his predecessors, came up through the company ranks.
You actually drove one of these.
I delivered with these. I was never really very good at it, but I did it.
UPS, which now ships billions of packages around the world, was born in a Seattle basement in 1907, when Jim Casey borrowed $100 to set up the business.
The company that he started was basically what?
It's a messenger company.
The American Messenger Company delivered telegrams until the telephone killed that business. So Casey began shipping department store packages, changing the name to the United Parcel Service. By the 1950s, it offered 2-day delivery to 48 states. But in the 80s, a challenger arrived.
You got a deal, good. I'm putting you down to deal with Dick. Dick, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? We're dealing.
Federal Express offered the first overnight service. Now you could FedEx it.
I think FedEx becoming a verb is very disturbing to UPS.
Mike Brewster, co-author of Driving Change, says a rivalry was born.
It's Coke, Pepsi. It's really a fierce competition.
UPS counterattacked, offering its own next-day service and expanding to more than 200 countries.
That little messenger company that started in a Seattle basement now has an air force of nearly 300 planes. UPS is the 8th largest airline in the world and delivers more packages than the U.S. Post Office.
15 million a day, 6% of the U.S. economy rides on UPS trucks.
How many trucks do you have?
We have about 94,000.
94,000?
Yeah. And luckily they're all brown.
And in those bland brown uniforms adopted back in the 20s, UPS drivers have become unlikely sex symbols.
And we've had a couple drivers who've found their future wives on the route.
At 100, UPS is wearing its age well as it keeps on trucking. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
That's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For Katie Couric, I'm Harry Smith. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again first thing tomorrow on The Early Show. Good night.